EQ has only been around since the late 90s or mid 90s, okay? And I remember studying it when I was doing my psych degree. And I remember I did my psych degree in 2000, and I think emotional intelligence really became famous back in 1995 by this guy called
Hmm.
Daniel Coleman. He wrote a book on emotional intelligence. And I was a financial advisor at the same time as I was doing my psych degree. And I just remember thinking, oh man, I could use this. I could use this with the right intention, okay, in sales, in my environment, in financial services. So I just remember really studying about it. I remember doing some further studies later because emotional intelligence is something as I said before, it's a learned skill. So we can develop in emotional intelligence.
Tell us about Kylie.
Sure. Okay. Oh, I didn't know we were going to start there. So, my name is Kylie Denton, and essentially, what I do is I work with leaders and their teams, developing higher performing leaders and teams, So, one of the things that is, and I pull me up if I get on my high horse about this, but I'm real passionate about this, is I often find that leaders are put into a leadership position, or people are put into a leadership position because they're a good practitioner or a good technician, or they were good at what they did. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of like, you should be a manager, right? And then they're put into a management role, but it's either sink or swim. Managing people is complex, isn't it? People are complex. I have a background in psychology. I know how complex people are. And then all of a sudden we put them in a team of people and we go, right, now all of you need to work together in order to achieve this goal. Okay.
Mm.
But the reality of it is there's leaders and people that have been put into that position. No one's ever shown them how to lead people. No one's ever shown them how to hold people accountable, how to manage underperformance, how to lead change, how to hold people, provide people with feedback, how to help people collaborate, even how to develop strategy in order to be able to get to the goals that the organisation is there. And my belief is always that leaders, the role of a leader is to grow new leaders, okay, bring on new leaders and help people be the best they can. So my real passion is around helping leaders develop and grow in how to be a better leader by giving them the tools they need and the frameworks and the models they need to be able to lead a team of people to success, or lead a team of people to become a higher performing team, or to achieve their goals. So I just often find that sometimes we blame it on the leaders not performing, whereas I think it's the leaders of the leaders that haven't given them the tools and the skills to be able to do what they do. So essentially that's what we do is we help leaders to become really confident, competent leaders so they can lead a high performing team, but also to achieve the broader strategic goals of organizations.
Let's dive straight in with that. So, when it comes to leadership, what are some common mistakes in a broad word that leaders often make? One of them, so I'll give you an example. One of them for me that I've seen is that just because you're good or you're competent at a specific job doesn't mean that you
Yeah.
should be a leader in that job.
Exactly, exactly. So, and when we become a leader, we actually need different skills. We need different qualities. We need different competencies to become that leader. We're no longer doing the task that we were doing before. Well, we shouldn't be. We should really be getting out of the weeds and into that broader strategic thinking. So I think the mistakes is we don't provide leaders with the tools and training and development they need to be successful as a leader. And, when I think about leadership, leadership is complex. We're required to have so many qualities and skills. We need to be
Mm.
visionary. We need to be influential. We need to be great communicators. We need to be great collaborators. We need to be great at holding people accountable. We need to be great at so many different things as a leader.
Yeah.
There's just so many different qualities that we need as a leader. So it's about, the mistake they make is assuming that just because someone was good at what they do, they no longer need help, and that we're just going to let them go, and hopefully they either achieve or they don't. But I can guarantee if they don't achieve, the leader that put them in their place is probably going to go, they just weren't cut out for that job. And it's like, actually,
Mm,
no, it's not that they weren't cut out for that job. What we do know about leadership is a skill. Okay. A little bit like emotional intelligence. And I know you want to get to that at some stage, but same with emotional intelligence. It's a skill, it's a learned skill. So we can actually provide leaders with the tools and the resources and the training and development they need to be successful. Okay. So I think the mistake that many leaders make is one, not providing their leaders with the right training, support, and development to grow them into outstanding leaders. But I think another really key area that leaders make mistakes in is they try to do it alone. They're not vulnerable. They're not going to their team going, you know what, I don't have all the answers. Who else knows this, or who else could help me with this? I'm really big at saying, especially to my team, is that I've got some really good ideas. However, your ideas and my ideas make great ideas. Okay.
mm.
And I'm also saying to them, I don't know that space. So if there's something not working, I need you to come and talk to me about that. So I don't profess to know all the answers. So as leaders, I think we've got to be vulnerable. I think we've got to be transparent. I think we've got to be able to collaborate with people and help the team become, if we think about that Gestalt theory, it's about it's the sum of all parts, is how do we bring all the team to that collective intelligence to be the best. So I think that's another mistake, is leaders feel that they have to know it all, and they don't want to be vulnerable, and they don't want to let anyone know that they might not know. Yet some of the best leaders that I work with, they'll say to me, Kylie, I am suffering imposter syndrome like you would not believe. And these are C-suites, heads of, GMs, and they're saying to me, man, I don't know if I've got this or not, but someone above thinks I do, so I better be able to do to do it. And that's that ability to go, you know what, I can't do it alone. Who do I need to collaborate with? Who do I need to build relationships with? Who do I need to bring together to be the best that I can? Who was that saying that said, if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room?
Yeah. I forget
I
who it
don't
was,
know.
but I know the quote you're talking about.
Yeah, it was, I'm not sure who it was either. I can't think off the top of my head, but I only said that to a group of leaders the other day. If you are the smartest person in your room, you're in the wrong room. Okay. So as leaders, how can you reach out and collaborate more, build stronger relationships, and be vulnerable too?
Mm. Yeah, and speaking to that from my experience as well, I hired a business coach about 2.5 months ago. And I remember the first feeling, the first call that I had, I got off that call and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so dumb. And not in
Yeah,
like a self-loathing kind of way, but purely in a, wow, why didn't I do this sooner? And I've had
yeah,
coaches before that. And I really believe in the value of having a coach, the right coach at the right time. And I remember getting this coach. I'm like, wow, what have I should have done this years ago. And for me, it really highlighted what you just said then. It's like you want to surround yourself with people who are experts in their areas. Obviously,
yeah,
there's different areas of life that you do and don't want to do that. But generally speaking, if I'm spending all my time on one specific task, let's say, for example, it's video editing, and I then walk into a room and try and do operations when there's a bunch of people that know operations better than me, it's not even a thing. And it's like the ego. It's like there's this really cool saying. I think you'll appreciate the saying. It's from it's called "Search Inside Yourself," the book by Chad Mang Tan, who's an ex-employee of Google, and he
yeah,
says having an ego is not a bad thing. It's about being able to shrink it when you need to and expand it when you need to. You
yeah,
go on a
yeah.
stage, do some public speaking. You want to expand your ego. You want to feel
Yes.
confident. You want to feel,
Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah.
proud to a degree. When you want to listen to someone have ambition, you shrink your ego. So I think it
Yeah.
really speaks into, emotional intelligence. That's for sure. We can dive into that. I think. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 2 points just to close that bit off, because I'm sure for
Mm.
people that are listening to, um, that might be wondering about a coach. I'm a professionally certified coach, but I have my own coach. Okay,
Yes.
so it's really important that people out there, we wouldn't put a football team on the field without a coach, would we? Or a soccer team, or an AFL team, or whatever, or a netball team. It doesn't matter. So they're coached to become the best they can. So it's the same if you're running your own business, okay, or wanting to achieve a really big goal. You've got to have a coach. I was only writing an article for a podcast that I'm doing in a few weeks' time, and they said, what was one of the smartest things you did when you first started your business? And I'd started my business 11 years ago. And I remember LinkedIn was there. It was a platform, but it wasn't a really big platform like it is today. And I don't think it would have had all the algorithms that it had. But I remember 11 years ago when I started my business, I put on a post that said, I'm just starting a new business and I'm looking for, and I called it a pro bono coach or mentor that would be willing to spend some time with me, just running through and being that sounding board for me. I got
Mm.
so many offers of help from around the globe that would offer to do that. I've still got the two people in my network today that I still ring up every now and again and go, hey, can I run this
Incredible.
by you? So, it's so important that even if you can't afford a coach your own, look out for those pro bono coaches, those mentors, the ones that are going to be able to help drive you forward. Okay. Does that help? Does that make sense from that perspective?
I love that. I just want to add to that as well. I think that if you have a big enough, it's another saying, another famous saying, if you have a big enough why, you'll figure out the how. So like getting a coach, and this is, I don't want to sell on the idea of getting a coach so heavily, but let's just speak about it for a second because it's so important. If you want to get a coach and you're like, I don't have the money, it's like there is a way. You just have to
Yeah.
find a way.
Yeah.
Most coaches are very flexible. You can say to them like, "How much you cost? Okay, it's 15K for 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. Look, I really want to work with you. I'm into this. I'll do whatever you. I'm very coachable. I'll listen. I've got a beginner's mind. Can we work something with the payment? Can we do like a little bit here, a little bit there?" And they're
Yeah.
honestly 95% of the time, not all of them, of course, but
Yeah.
95% of the time, people will see that. They'll see that you're passionate about it, and if you give them a big enough why, they'll facilitate that. And with
Yeah.
my business coach, like for me, I'm like, oh, it's a lot of money up front, and he's like, can we do something with that? Can we work it out here or there? And he's like, yep, we can do this in a financial year, da 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 da, da. And it worked out. And straight
Yeah.
away, I got an ROI pretty much 2 weeks after that. So if you need to
Yeah.
get a coach, if anyone listening, it's worth the jump. So
Yeah, it is. Do you know Keith Abrahams is so one of my mentors? He
mm,
wrote a book on when the whys become clear, the hows become easy.
yeah,
Okay. So that is something that I'm constantly saying to the leaders that I work with. When we really get clear on our why, then the hows becomes so easy because it makes so much more sense. Okay, let's move into emotional intelligence because this is a,
let's
a
do it.
pretty passionate topic for me too. What I might do is I might define what emotional intelligence is. Okay, because
Please.
often I find that so many people know what IQ is. It's been around, I think, probably since the 1960s, 50s, something like that. It's been around for a long time. But EQ has only been around since the late 90s or mid 90s. Okay. And I remember studying it when I was doing my psych degree. And I did my psych degree in 2000. And I think emotional intelligence really became famous back in 1995 by this guy called
Hmm.
Daniel Coleman. He wrote a book on emotional intelligence. And I was a financial advisor at the same time as I was doing my psych degree. And I just remember thinking, oh man, I could use this. I could use this with the right intention, okay, in sales, in my environment, in financial services. So I just remember really studying about it. I remember doing some further studies later because emotional intelligence is something as I said before, it's a learned skill. So we can develop in emotional intelligence. So the definition of emotional intelligence, and I'll read it out, okay, because it's fairly hefty. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways. So, manage, understand, and use your own emotions in positive ways. But then the second part of the definition is in order to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict. Okay. It's
Wow.
chunky, isn't it? Okay. So it
It
is.
is.
When I think about emotional intelligence, I think about, and I'll break that down into something a little bit more easy to understand. It is your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior. Okay. So what you do with your thoughts, your emotions, and your will result in the behavior. Okay. So emotional intelligence is really broken up into a number of different quadrants, okay, that we look at. Self-awareness, there's self-awareness, there's empathy, motivation, self-regulation, and social skills. Okay, so 5 quadrants. Some emotional intelligence doctors will look at it in 4 quadrants, one will look at it in 6, and one will look at it in 5. It doesn't matter, they all fit under those pillars. Okay,
Hmm.
but essentially it is, how do you manage your own emotions in order to be able to regulate them, but also how do you manage the relationships that you have with others as well. So it kind of balances that out. And if you
Hmm.
think about emotional intelligence is so different for all of us. We've all grown up in different situations, haven't we? We've grown up in different situations. We perceive things in different ways, which also
Hmm.
means that our emotions, our thoughts, and behaviors are also different. So it's why, emotional intelligence is such an important topic for people to build, because we know that when you develop yourself in emotional intelligence, there's so many benefits, not only for yourself, but your partners, your children, your people that you're leading, and all of that. So emotional intelligence is something that we often think of as, I know what it means, kind of, but I don't really know how it actually is defined, and then what that means from a behavioral perspective as well.
And just to jump in there, so could you give myself and listeners an example of emotional intelligence in play? It could be just a fictional example, it could be in real life, but something that, yeah, it would display what emotional intelligence is in the real world.
Yeah, sure. So emotional intelligence. So imagine we go into. I'll give you a business world example, and then I'll give you something that everyone might experience on a daily
Sure.
basis. So a business world example might be, I walk into a meeting, and I see in that meeting someone that I particularly don't like very much, or maybe there's a little bit of tension between us. Maybe I don't really particularly like working with them, or they don't like me, or we just haven't connected. Okay.
Mm.
Emotional intelligence is one, first understanding the thoughts that are going through my head. Okay, so what is it that I'm thinking about this dynamic between me and this person? The second part is one, having the self awareness to go, oh, what's the emotion I'm feeling? It could be annoyance, it could be frustration, it could be anger, it could be whatever. It doesn't matter. It's the emotion that I'm feeling. But then my behavior is, how do I react to that person? So, I could either be short with them. Okay, that's
Mhm.
not good self management. Or I could talk to them in a really professional manner and dismiss those emotions. So, what we would see is someone that has good emotional intelligence would be able to, one, be aware of the thought that's coming up, understand the emotion, but not let that emotion play out in my behavior. So it might be, me and you talking professionally, even though there's something between us that's not gelling or not connecting, or I don't particularly like you or you don't particularly like me, that's pushed under, and we're having this beautiful professional conversation. So that's a
Mhm.
really great way of how we manage emotional intelligence in the correct way. If I wasn't managing it the right way, you might hear me say a few short things. I might be a little
Mm.
bit passive aggressive to you. I might maybe sit on the opposite side of you as opposed to beside you. I might be a little bit ruder. My tone might be wrong. That's an
Mm.
impact where we're not managing that regulation around self-management, okay, of emotional intelligence. So it's about understanding what are the thoughts that I'm feeling, sorry, what are the thoughts that I'm thinking, what are the emotions that I'm feeling, and then
Mhm.
what behavior do I choose? Do I choose the high road, or do I choose the road that's not going to be real helpful in a meeting situation?
What about confronting that person? I mean, confronting in the most gentle sense of the word, but approaching them and saying like, "Hey, like I'm feeling XYZ about this situation." So you have, for example, crucial conversations, which they talk about SMART, which is
Yeah,
share the facts. It's a share the facts. I think the next one is something about telling the feelings, asking tentatively, asking for their opinion. So
yeah,
basically, so my approach when conflict comes up, because for me, I'm a very sensitive person. So when conflict arises, and for me, because I'm so sensitive as a child, my way to learn to deal with that sensitivity was to kind of block it off and
yeah,
to
right. Put it
be
down.
very good at be very good at uh, being normal but feeling tumultuous inside. So
Yeah,
what I learned a few years ago when I went through, the path of looking to my childhood and understanding where things came from and why I am the way I am, I realized I didn't have to be like that. And when it came to professional and personal relationships, I would just share how I felt about something. Whether it
yeah,
be like I feel bad about X or this, or it's like, hey, I'm feeling a bit of tension here. Am I missing something? Or hey, I'm
yeah,
feeling and always say I feel, not like you made me feel this.
yeah,
Why do you make me feel this? Like, hey,
mm,
so again, share the facts. Like, hey, like you said this yesterday, and it made me feel like you didn't appreciate my work. Am I missing something there? And they
yeah,
might just
yeah,
say, oh, like no, I'm having a bad day. And my experience with this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. My experience with this approach is that when you open up your heart and when you're vulnerable to someone, 99% of the time, people reciprocate that back. If not straight
mm,
away, again, like it's like letting off that armoring, letting off that shield that you're wearing of like I'm going to be like closed off here. It's like no, open up and share how I feel. And initially people are like, oh, no, but then you keep just opening your heart, and people
yeah,
typically respond in a positive way. That's my experience.
yeah,
Is that something that you would recommend as well? I mean, might be a bit
yeah.
hard in certain environments, but
No, no, even as a leader, I'm often working with leaders. I use what we call an IDEA model. So it's IDEA. So we
mm,
identify the behavior, we describe the impact, we explore the options of moving forward, and we come up with a bit of an action plan. So if that was the case, if there was something that if I felt conflict, or if I felt that someone was, I don't know, we just weren't gelling, then I absolutely agree with you. It is about actually taking it outside of the meeting. It's not time for it in the meeting, but it's taking it outside of the meeting.
yeah,
Hey, let's have a chat. I feel that every time we work together that I don't know, there's something that's happening, and I'm not sure whether it's something I've caused it or whether or not there's something that's going through your mind, but I'd love to have a chat with you about it. Okay. So it's how do we do it? I always say if the intention is right, the outcome can be great. Okay, so one of the things that I work with my team, I give my team feedback all the time. So one of the things that is part of our culture within my organization is that feedback fuels us to be the best that we can. Okay, so although the feedback might be developmental or it might be motivational or it might be an area where there's a gap, they know that the reason that I'm bringing this up is because my intention is right for them. I want to help them be the best they can. I want to work with them. I want to support them. I want to grow them. I want to do all of that. Okay. So when we go in, and I'm using intention, I think, because I've got the corporate hat on, but you're using intention from the heart, from the emotion. It's the same thing. Okay. I even point
yeah,
to it.
got it.
My intention, here's my heart right here. It's because I want to be better. I want you to be better. I can know you can be better. So when the intention is right, then I've always found the outcome can be just outstanding. So I absolutely agree. It's that ability, and again, if we think about emotional intelligence, one of the pillars of it is relationships. Okay, how
Mhm.
well we maintain and build relationships. So if you're sort of just sweeping that under the rug, going, I don't like them, they're just not my people, all that sort of stuff, there's going to be a low impact of emotional intelligence. You're going to come low in that area because it's not about that. It's about how do we work with people and engage with people, okay, from that perspective. I always
Mm.
think, okay, emotions are just triggers. They're triggers that are telling us something, okay? There's a trigger. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling energized, whatever it might be. It's a trigger. It's telling me something. It's your intelligence is what you do with it, okay? So when we have those feelings of, I don't know, like conflict with someone, it's just a trigger. What is it really telling you? So I always go, emotions are the triggers. Your intelligence will determine what you do with it. Okay. So that
Mm.
does that work for you? Does that connect?
It does connect, and I think the underlying, for me, like I guess you'd say, so again, like um, I think of things in 3 layers, like objective, strategy, tactic, and of course, not taking out of the fact that we're humans and we're messy and things happen. But I think a really cool tactic that I've actually used a lot in my own life, and I hate the word tactic 'cause it sounds conniving, but I don't mean it that way at all. But it's creating safety by reminding someone, "Hey, my goal here is to do X, Y, Z. My goal here is to." So, for example, in intimate relationships, like when someone gets offensive, like we use the classical, like "You didn't stack the dishwasher last night." It's
Yeah.
like my intention here isn't to make you feel. And when you say that, first and foremost, you then have to think to yourself, "What is my
What is
intention
my
here?"
intention? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Am I actually trying to pick a fight because I'm upset about something else myself? So even thinking of that conversation in your mind, the trigger, as you mentioned there before, is, oh, hey, like, is that my intention?
Mm,
So then when you think about that and you come to the conversation, it's like, hey, my intention here isn't to belittle you or make you feel small. My goal is to bring us closer together
yeah,
so we're able to become more companionate together
yeah,
and create a more communal relationship. Um, and it's so interesting that you mentioned that before around intention because I stopped doing that somewhere along the way and I forgot about it. But I'm gonna start using that more again because I think that's really important when you share. Hey, my goal isn't to like I don't want to make you feel bad. I genuinely want to
yeah.
try and figure out a solution for this.
Yeah, yes. And I think if we let people know that, then they actually receive that information in a different way. You know, feedback for many people, especially in business, is negative connotations to it. Oh my God, feedback. Oh no, I've done something wrong. Whereas to me, as a leader, our role is to help grow, develop, support, and inspire our team. So if I give them no feedback, other than
Mm,
negative feedback, then how is that ever going to help someone to feel inspired and grow? Okay. Whereas
mm,
if I'm giving them feedback and they know that the feedback is not because Kylie's upset or angry or annoyed at me, she's giving it to me because she knows that next time I'm going to be able to do it better or right or learn from it. Okay. And they then go, give me feedback. Okay. So my team will often say to me, give me feedback, Kylie. I want to know. How can I be better? Because they're
mm.
so used to me giving that because they know that my intention is right. Okay.
Yeah. I feel, and let's dive into that because so feedback, right? You know, it's a huge word that's used. What's a different word for feedback? Can we use it? Try to use a different word.
Um, feedback might be,
Realigning the vision, perhaps.
maybe it might be information. Can I share with you maybe observations? It could be information,
Mm.
observations, thoughts, ideas.
So let's say, for example, we're sharing observation with someone. What is the and using emotional intelligence as, I guess, the tool or the encapsulation of the idea. What is the best way for one to provide an observation slash feedback to someone?
Yeah. Okay. So for me, if I was to start with that part of it, I might say, would you be open to me sharing some ideas or observations with you? Okay. So
Yep.
as a coach, and again, I'm qualified, so we have some really clear ethics around what we can and what we can't do. And one of the things is
Mm,
we can't do is give advice, okay, or give solutions or give thoughts, okay. However, there are some times when I might say to someone, would you be interested in hearing what my ideas or thoughts are or what I've seen work in the past? If they go, yes, Kylie, and by the way, I've never had anyone say no, don't tell me, okay? If they say yes, I'll go, great. Well, this is how I've noticed this, or I've observed this, or I've seen this. How do you think that might work for you? Okay. So again,
mm.
I've asked permission. Would you be open to some feedback? Would you be open to looking at something different? Would you be open to an idea around how I might be able to help you be more effective or efficient or faster at what you do? If someone's willing to do it, then they'll go, yeah, sure, bring it on.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with someone. It was last night actually, and they were sharing a technique. Um, and I feel those words are so cold. Technique, they're showing a version of being, where if you're going to share something that's maybe a bit blunt or perhaps a bit harsh or these things, like, hey, just let you know, I'm going to be a bit blunt here. Um, and maybe that's not the best way to do it, but I felt when he mentioned that, it's like, ah, cool, because there is something harsh that I want to share here. There is something blunt that I want to share here, but I don't want them to feel jaded by it or hurt by it. It's not my intention.
Yeah,
Again, it's the intention,
yeah,
and it's just sharing with them. It's like preparing someone for the information you're about to give them.
yeah, it is. And, also it's about how open are you to receiving
Yeah.
feedback? How open? And, sometimes even when and again, I've just finished a coaching session before we came on today, and I saw some real gaps around an area that we were working on with him. And I said to
Mm.
him, would you be open for me to share my observation with where we went today? And he said, yeah, please. Okay. And I shared some observations with him around where I felt he hadn't quite closed the loop on a couple of things. And I said, I'm curious now that you've heard that, did any of that land for you? Did it resonate with you? And he went, you've made me really think of something different to what I was thinking before. That's all my goal was just for them to think differently. He can take it, he can leave it, he can use it, he doesn't have to. But the opportunity was, how do we help someone think broader about the impact that they could be having?
And I think when you ask questions like that and you provide a model of thinking, it's not just the question that provides the impact, it's also the model of thinking or the way of approaching situation that rubs off as well.
Yeah. Do you know there's one, and I did a group of leaders through a coaching program yesterday, so took them through a coaching for leaders workshop. And one question I love that I often use in coaching is, um, would you like would you like to know what I would do? And they go, yes, Kylie, I'd love to know that. And I'd go, what do you think I might say? Okay. Okay. It's a really powerful question, Luke, because what actually happens is they go, you might do that. And I go, maybe. How does that even sit with you? And they go,
Mm.
actually, I could probably do that, but I might need to tweak it. So I love it. They always go, do you want some advice, or do you want me to tell you what I might do? And they go, yeah, absolutely. And I go, what do you think I might say? And they go, Kylie, that's not fair.
Well, I think the good thing about that is that's speaking to um, that's saying that the people you're speaking to are receptive to that information. So I'm wondering, this just popped in my mind before. I'm wondering, when you have a team that perhaps maybe feels disheartened or disenfranchised to a degree, and they're not receptive to that kind of, you know, back and forth, so to speak, of like, what do you think you should do? I don't know, you tell me. Or like, they feel disempowered to a degree. How does one approach that situation where I guess there's not much of an investment? There's kind of like they're just doing their job, they're plodding along, they feel disempowered perhaps. How do you turn that around?
Oh wow, that's a loaded question, isn't it? There's so
Guess so.
many things that I could go there with that, because it's not just one answer.
Mm,
It's not just let's just have a talk with them and find out what their goals are and what their motivations are. It's bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that. If we think about, there's a great leadership framework that is called, from Patrick Lencioni, and it's called the five dysfunctions of a team. Okay. And he talks about, how do we move from a dysfunctional team into
mm,
a highly functioning team. And as I said before, people are complex, yet put them into a team that becomes even more complex, okay, can be really difficult. So the very, very first thing that we want to do with that, Luke, is we want to build trust. Trust is the most important foundation of a highly functioning team. So to me, that would be where I would start, is how do we build trust? How do we work together
mm,
more? How do we become, um, where they are open, where they are, might even be, how do I add value to your role? How can I best support you? What do you need from me? Okay, it can be those simple questions, and then delivering that. But what I think is missing in that situation is that there's a lack of trust. And
mm.
trust will break a team like nothing else.
Yeah, wow. So, what does one do to develop trust?
I knew you were going to go there. Trust is built by small actions. Okay, so even think about it, even from a friend perspective, or from a relationship perspective, or from a team perspective, even with a child, even with your children. Trust isn't built by the big things that we do. I can't take you on a holiday and then all of a sudden you trust me. Okay, that's just not how trust is built. Trust is built by those small moments. It could be picking up the phone to say, Luke, I know you've had a rough couple of weeks. I just wanted to check in. Okay. It could be
Mm,
asking about what you did on the weekend. It could be finding out the names, ages, and schools that your kids go to. It could be finding out what they did on the weekend. What are they passionate about? There's this great exercise I do with teams around building trust, and it's called Life as a Child. And it's really non-intrusive questions that ask, how many siblings do you have? Where did you grow up? What was your first job? What was your worst job? What was your biggest challenge growing up? And I just did this session on Friday last week with a group of leaders. There was 12 leaders. And out of those 12 leaders, 3 leaders actually shared with us their biggest challenge growing up was they all spent a lot of time in hospital. Now, I've never experienced that kind of connection before. There's normally connection with, I used to dirt bike, I used to live in the country, I grew up there too, or whatever. But out of the 12 leaders, 3 of them, their biggest challenge was that they'd spent a lot of time in hospital. It's those little bits of connection that help us find out more about you and more about them and their family and their interests. That's what builds trust. Okay. Um,
mm,
it could be a text to say, "Hey, you popped into my mind today, and I just thought I'd reach out and say Happy Friday."
yeah, wow.
That's how we build trust. It's not the big things; it's the little things. It's about delivering on your commitment. If I say I'm going to be there next Friday at 12 o'clock, I'm going to be there next Friday. If I say that I'm going to deliver this piece of work for you, I'm going to deliver this piece of work for you. It's all of those small moments that help us as humans connect with others and feel like we've got each other.
Mm, yeah, wow. Okay. And do you feel like, I guess the trust thing as well, I was going to say, what if I'm going to the depths of, the whole situation, because I think we talk so much about how to be a good leader, but like, what are the tools to turn a team around? We don't really speak about that very much. And I feel like a lot of leaders go through that. because there is so much of that. Um, but yeah, trust. Okay, so trust, and I imagine a good dose of emotional intelligence as well.
Yeah, there is. There's emotional intelligence. I think what's really critically important for teams as well is that opportunity to connect. So,
Mm,
sometimes what we do is we've all got our own remit, don't we? We know this is your job, this is your team, this is your objectives, these are your KPIs or whatever it might be. This is what you've got to deliver. But it's the connection with the team that is critical. I work with senior leadership teams, and I'm talking about senior leaders as being team A, and then the teams
yep.
that fall under them are team B. Whereas normally when I start with the team, with the executives or the senior leaders that I'm working with, I go, who's team A, your team or this team? And who's team B? And nearly every situation, people will say to me, team A is the team that falls under me. Okay. But what I'm saying is that if team A, which is your senior leadership team or your leadership team, are not collaborating and not working together and not focused on the same outcomes and goals and objectives, then team B see this silo approach. They see people not working together. They see people not understanding, communications poor, engagements there, you're just not going to achieve those goals. So it's how do teams connect? How do they work together? When do they work together? How do they collaborate? How do they spend time getting to know each other, building trust? How do they build on emotional intelligence? How do they hold each other accountable as well? How do they work together in order to be able to be accountable to each other? It's really easy to hold your team accountable below you, isn't it? But it's really hard to hold your peers accountable if they're not reporting to you. So as a leadership team, how are we going to work together to make sure we deliver on what we say we're going to deliver? And there's another thing that's really important for teams, and you kind of touched on it a little bit before. It's the ability to have healthy conflict.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
want conflict in a team. We don't want everyone agreeing. We don't want everyone going, yep, let's do that. That's all good, and follow the leader. As leadership teams, we want healthy conflict. And again, I'll go back to that intention. If I'm going to challenge your strategy or your approach or the way in which you're working, Luke, I'm doing it for the good of the team, not
Mm,
because I don't like you. Okay. So when
yeah.
I'm challenging you, I'm going, actually, my thinking is different around that approach. Would you be open to hearing what my thoughts are? And you going, yeah, absolutely. I please bring that diversity, bring that different in thinking. That's when we get the goal. That's when that collective intelligence is there. So many things. I work with teams each month, right up for 9 to 12 months, because we're trying to bring them together. It's not easy. It's not easy bringing a team together and getting them to work together. It really does take time. It takes trust. It takes connection, it takes emotional intelligence, it takes accountability, it takes
Mm,
conflict, it does all of that. So there's
mm.
sometimes I'll put in a bit of conflict, where we're going to look at our strategy, we're going to look at our prioritization, and then watch how the team work together to come out on top.
So let's use a scenario. Say you're someone who's just started a business and you're growing rapidly and you need to hire a bunch of people. Um, what are some simple principles, strategies, techniques, whatever it might be, that they should know to begin with around running a team?
Running a team. Okay. Regular. So they're going to want a really clear operating rhythm. So when are we going to meet? How often? What's going to be the purpose of it? What's going to be the outcome? So what's our meeting operating rhythm like? The second part is how are we going to communicate? So when are we going to communicate? What channels are we going to communicate with? Is it going to be in huddles? Is it going to be in meetings? Is it going to be via Zoom? Is it going to be via um, a fortnightly meeting? So what's our communication? Okay. The third really important part around teams is our ways of working. Okay, so how are we going to distribute work? How are we going to hold each other accountable? How are we going to be honest and open and transparent? How are we going to manage conflict? Okay, how are we going to make decisions? So I run a workshop, a free workshop at the moment around the foundations of high performing teams. And some of the things that I'm talking about is just those things. Let's get our foundations stable. The next thing that's really important and works in conjunction with that is, what is our vision? What is our mission? What is our purpose? What are our goals? Okay, so real clear planning around, where are we going? Where's that light on the hill? Okay, so often startups will have all of these amazing ideas in their head. Okay, even businesses, they have all of these amazing ideas in their head, but they haven't clearly articulated it to the rest of the people around, what is our purpose, what is our mission, what is our vision, where are we going, what's that goal, what's that big three top goals that we are striving for as an organization. And then helping the people under actually understanding the role in which they play. So one of them might be social
Mm,
media. Okay, one of them might be, you manage the marketing. But what are we really trying to get? What's the outcome if you market well? Well, we have increased customers, we have reduced cost, we have, more referrals, whatever it might be. Let people know the real piece of the puzzle that they play so that they can go, oh, okay, so I'm not just posting on social media Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'm actually posting with an outcome. So am I getting that outcome or am I not getting that outcome? And then, once we've got the goals, how do we measure it? How do we know if we're achieving it? And that meeting operating rhythm is critical because they should be meeting on a regular basis to check in. How are we going? Are we getting the referrals? Are we getting the sales? Are we getting the engagement? Are we getting the whatever it might be that they're trying to get? So it's really, there's some real key areas that startups and businesses often don't set, and then
yeah.
wonder why everyone's busy being busy as opposed to busy with a purpose of, where are we really going for. I love it when I get to spend time with leaders, helping them to nut out their vision, their mission, their purpose, their goals, and how they're going to measure it, and then the part that everyone plays, because everyone walks out and goes, oh my God, I'm so clear. I know exactly what I've got to do. I know exactly when I've got to do it. I know how I'm going to do it, why I'm going to do it, and who I'm going to do it with. It's the same as what you said before. When the whys become clear, what are we trying to achieve? Where are we going? The hows become really easy.
Mm. So what I'm hearing there is clarity, like clarity
Oh,
on
yeah,
mission, purpose. Here's what we're doing. Here I think we should get there. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah,
And here's the part that you play in part of this process.
yeah, yeah.
And giving people just the opportunity to understand, well, where they are in the whole system, I guess. And also, I wonder if it's a better way to do it as in including them in on the actual vision creation and the mission creation. Would that be too far or?
No, not at all. So again, I just ran a 2-day workshop with a large council here in Australia. And I said to the executive who had commissioned me to come in and do the work, I said, I want you to have a vision and a mission and a purpose. Just
Yeah,
couple of sentences. I just want you to have something that we can work with. Okay, this is your division, so you should, at the very least, at that top of that pinnacle, know where we're going, right? So I always get the executive to come up and have a base, right? Then I get all the team. I'll give everyone a pen in their hand. Stand us around the whiteboard. I've got the vision, mission, and purpose up on the whiteboard, and I get everyone now to rework it. Let's get something we're
yeah,
all clear on. We're all happy with it. All makes sense. Okay. And that's a much faster process. Um, I've seen companies do it with nothing and they can spend a half a day to a full day trying to get it. It's that, who has time for that? Okay.
yeah,
Get
yeah,
a really clear mission, vision, and purpose. If the leader is clear, and then we refine it. Is that really right? Does that word work? Does that connect? Is that meeting our stakeholders, our clients, our business partners, our community, etc.? And then we get something beautiful that everyone goes, I want to be a part of that. That is why I'm here. And that is why we exist. And that is where we hope to be in the future. So, absolutely agree. When we bring people along with us, Luke, and we feel that they're part of the decision making and part of the process, they're more aligned to come and join us on that bus and be that co driver with us. And that's what we
Yeah.
want. We want people to feel that they helped develop this and decide this and are part of this. And actually, I want what you got. So how do we do it together?
Mm. So let's say, for example, you're Elon Musk and your vision is to get to Mars. That's a very easy vision to get on board with. But what if you're selling bathroom wear? What if you're selling haberdashery? Like, how do you get someone on board with that?
Yeah, well, to me, it's what is it about that? So, for example, right,
Mm.
I was working with the council the other day, and as any council, it's got one, hundreds and hundreds of people working for them, and probably hundreds and hundreds of departments as well, or at least 100 departments. And we were
Yeah.
talking about, a wedding that happens at the park, right? And
Mm.
very much the leaders went, yeah, I processed the payment. And then another one went, my team actually makes sure that the people are out there mowing the lawns. Another department was making sure that if they got a call to say there was a homeless person in the park, that they arranged for someone to help move them to another area. And so it was like that every single department played a key pivotal role in helping the bride and the groom have the most magical day of their life. Okay.
Yeah.
The
Well.
second part of that was every single one of those departments also made Brisbane look the part. Clean parks, lawn mowed, okay, rates paid, bills paid. So to
Mm.
me, yes, they might only be doing haberdashery, okay, but to me, what is that doing? It's probably dressing someone so that they feel confident, so that they can go and get a
Yeah.
job, so that they can look the part, so they can feel smart, so they can feel good. Okay. Okay. So there's that part of it. Okay. In relation to the bathroom part, yes, you might only be selling taps and you might only be selling bowls and sinks. But let me tell you, I've just designed my new office and you can see some of it in the background.
Looks
And there was
beautiful.
not, thank you. There was nothing more special than actually going in and talking to the guy that sold me my taps, my showers, my vanity, my bowl, because he helped me bring what I've always wanted as a dream office together. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's about helping people to really understand is that yes, you might only pay the bill, or yes, you might be selling the tap or the organising the lawnmower man to go and make the parks look amazing. But there's
Mm.
actually a really deeper emotional connection to that. And that's the bit I
Mm.
love is I love helping people make that deeper connection around what it is that you're really, really doing. And that's the special part. Okay. Another example is I work within the aged care industry. So we're getting calls from families to let us know that their elderly mother or their father is needing to find a home. Okay, they're needing
Yeah.
to be moved into an aged care facility. And it was very much around, okay, what location do you want and when do they need them? And that's quite sterile. You've got people that are emotional at the moment. I have to put my mum and my dad in an aged care facility. I feel guilty. I feel sad. I feel helpless. I feel all of these horrible emotions that are going through me because I can't look after my mum and my dad. Okay. So the end goal for us was having that person on the phone to go, what do they like doing? Do they like walking around gardens? Do they like doing? Do they like cooking? Do they like getting their hair cut? Do they need to be close to their grandchildren? Do we need a space out so children can play at the park? Because we wanted to put people in a home so that their grandchildren could come and see them, so that they could
Yeah.
still do the gardening, all of that. So it's so
Mhm.
much more than just a task. It's so much more than just a job.
Yeah. Wow. it's quite beautiful when you think about it, because when you create a vision and a mission, you're allowing someone to have purpose, right?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like that purpose is what creates meaning, and meaning creates, I want to do this job, I want to work, I want to
Yeah,
give, I want to
yeah.
contribute. And yeah, I think when you get it down to its core, like a business, its sole purpose, and maybe this is a bit of a stretch, it's actually a spiritual practice. Like you're actually
Mm.
trying to change the world for the positive.
Mm.
With the exception of some businesses, I think, but for the most part,
For sure, yeah.
there is that. Yeah, there is that purpose there. You wanna take something that was and make it something that it is. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's really cool. So, what are you, speaking about purpose and passion? What are you passionate about at the moment? What's on your uh, what to you is making you get up in the morning at the moment?
Mm. Two things. Okay. I started a free leadership workshop about 3 years ago when COVID hit. I had so many leaders reach out to me telling me that they were struggling with leadership and that they weren't getting the support. So
Yep.
I made it my mission to deliver 38 free workshops a year around the world where I provided leadership workshops for 1 hour a week over those 38 weeks to be able to help people that didn't have the opportunity to get the help through their leaders of leaders. Okay. So my mission is to help 10,000 people this year, free of charge, to get some leadership support. Last year we helped 7,000. So that's what gets me up, is the ability to be able to help leaders to be the best leaders for them, for their people, for the companies they lead, etc. So that's one of my drivers of what I do. My second passion is my family. Okay, I have two beautiful girls. One's 10, one is 13. And my purpose every day is to help make them into confident, caring, and purpose driven adults. So every day I get up and show them that they can be anything they want to be. Okay. So this is, 11 years I started my own business, and I want them to know that they can be who they want to be if they lead a life
Mm,
of purpose. So both leaders and my children.
that's beautiful.
What about you?
Hmm. To scratch the unscratchable itch of curiosity that I constantly have, and to understand uh, the deepest truths of reality, whether it's through spiritual means, scientific,
Yeah.
um, to feed the voracious hunger of curiosity that I have. That's in this,
Yeah.
but in my own other business, it's actually, some things you mentioned then. And I'd love to be one of those 10,000 people, by the way. Um, and I have to refine this now, but I think with my other business, where we do lots of personal branding for different clients, and we do content, and we create, YouTube clips and various things like that. And I have to think about this and refine this based on what we've spoken about
Mm.
today, actually. Um, but my mission there and my purpose there is to help people who have something to say get it out to the world. I
Yeah.
see lots of, and I've worked with them, lots of people who have amazing ideas, amazing concepts, amazing things that would change someone's life, but no
Yes.
one's ever heard them.
Yes. Yeah.
If I
Platform.
typed into, yeah, to give a voice to those, there you go, there it is. To give a voice to those who have something to say,
Yeah.
right?
Nice.
To help create a personal brand for someone who has something to say. So that would be my mission, and that would be my purpose. Um, so I want to guide people on where to go. Any thoughts on that, by the way, before we wrap this up?
Yeah, well, I'd go back to get down to the core.
Yeah.
Like storytelling has been around for centuries, hasn't it? We only need to look at the tribal days. Okay, everyone sat around the campfire, everyone sat around in communities and they told stories. Okay, when
Uh-huh.
I hear you say, I want to give people the voice. Okay, it's how can they bring out that story, that emotional story that's going to connect people with the compelling reason that's going to drive them action to either invest in them or give them the opportunity that they want. So to me, it would be get into storytelling for them. Why? What's the emotion? You know, even what I said before, it's we're trying to drive the true emotional connection with people.
Yeah.
How do they
Yeah.
find that and bring that out?
Yeah. And that's self leadership as well, right? You
Yeah,
know, like when you go through that
exactly.
purpose, that mission, and defining what that is for you, you like, you get reinvigorated. You're like, and
Yeah,
that's the piece around motivation for emotional intelligence, you know,
yeah.
and then that's a driver and the thing that pushes you forward. So I love that. And I'm going to apply it to my life right after this call, I think. Um, so for those 10,000 people that you want
Yeah.
to support with leadership, is that a good direction to head? And if it is, where can they sign up, find that, myself included?
Yeah, sure. So go. You can go straight to our work, not workshop, our website. Okay, which is
Awesome.
Performance Advisory Group. I'll give it to you, and you can pop it into the links.
Please.
It's on our homepage, and again, we run these free workshops so that people from all over the world, and we get people from all over. We have Iceland, we have UK, we have New Zealand, we
Wow.
have like Nigeria. We have everyone from around the
That's
world
cool.
coming to learn, and it's like an opportunity for people to keep on growing and keep on learning. My motto is you cannot grow others unless you're growing yourself. So
Yeah.
how do people that maybe don't have the funds or the availability keep doing that? Well, I want to be a part of that. So you can go to our
Yeah.
website, performanceadvisorygroup.com.au, and you'll find it all there.
We'll put in the show notes as well. Just look that
Thank
through to
you.
me and I'll add it there.
Cheers.
Awesome, Kai. Thanks so much for joining. I appreciate having you on.
My pleasure. Thanks for the time, Luke. It was great to chat.